bring some pals, and there's also therapy too.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Park Pals. Oh my gosh, we are on season 5. This is actually so insane, and I am so bizarre, beyond happy to be here. Oh my gosh, this is just like we were talking about in the last season. I feel like last season it was, again, quintessential parks, and we are just getting to the end of this kind of roundabout thing that Leslie has been going through, and I'm so excited that we get to see exactly where she's headed after this monumental achievement that she's been wanting for such a long time. So it's really cool to see her in DC, because that is just on the grand scale of things where things are going and where she has been going for a while. And I was listening to Parks and Recollection, which is a great podcast as well. Very different styles of Parks and Rec recap, but I was listening to that, and they were saying that they could have totally ended season 4 just by leaving it, like if they didn't come back for another season, like it really just finished out everything that they needed to finish. So it's honestly just like such a major plus that we get to see all of this incredible history future for Leslie. So history and future for Leslie. So it's great. As you can probably tell, Maddie is not with me today, so I am flying solo for this episode. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you stick around because we have such an incredible episode right now. Maddie obviously sent in a summary, so I'll play that a little later, but she has a lot going on right now, traveling with her husband and the baby, and just all the things happening right now. She played at a quinceañera, which I don't think I will mind, or she would mind me telling you that. So getting that prepared all in the same weekend is just a lot going on. So, but yeah, we're still gonna have a great time. So I'm glad that you're here. Okay. Now, before I get started on actual season 5, I do want to go through the recap of last episode. In the finale of Win, Lose, or Draw, I mentioned that there was a bleep, and we weren't sure if there actually was one when Leslie loses, or it's announced that she lost to Bobby Newport, amateur go-kart, amateur go-karter, whatever the heck. She laughs, and that she laughs. She has her little maniacal laugh, crazy, and then she says, "Oh, fuck," and they bleep that out, which was... oh, so good. So I'm really glad that I went back and rewatched that, because it's a really good bleep. And we said in the last episode, oh, that would have been a good bleep, because we weren't sure if it actually happened, and it did. Sometimes you forget things, okay? Between the watching of the show and the taking the notes and then actually recording the episode from your research, sometimes you do forget things. So, that's that. Okay. All right. So season 5, episode 1, Miss Knope goes to Washington. We're here. Oh my gosh. Side note for those who may not know, this is referencing the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with the debonair James Stewart, which is a 1939 movie about a man who's on the Senate and tries to fight against corruption. So that's really cool, because that's very Leslie, I feel. And it's not corruption, but it's definitely red tape that she goes through in this episode. So we'll be watching out for that. This was written by Aisha Muharrar, who we know and love from so many incredible, iconic episodes. But we also know her, and I say this in every single episode because I just think it's definitely needing to be mentioned, that she is the lady who works in the baby store when Anne goes to buy baby bibs, and she says, this is the first bib I haven't seen, or that I've seen without Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s face on it. Oh my God. And the lady that's working at the store is like, really? That's her. That's Aisha. That's who wrote this episode, which is lovely. And like I said, she's been in so many things. She's also a producer and writer for The Good Place. And I believe she's been working on Hacks for a little bit as well, which, by the way, you guys, you have to watch Hacks. It's very, very good. And I love the writing. If you liked the guy who was in Broad City a lot, who did a lot of improv with those girls, he is kind of at the forefront of the writing and producer team as well for Hacks. And it's just like the writing, the acting, it's so good. I'd say Hacks and Abbott Elementary are like the true comedy shows that I'm really into right now. So, because comedy shows are hard to find right now, and not saying that they're not good. They're just, I think we're having some trouble figuring out what exactly comedy is in the industry right now. Like The Bear is not comedy, but it like is in that category for the Emmys and stuff. Or it's not comedy to me. I mean, obviously it has like funny parts in it, but so do a lot of shows. I don't know. Very strange. Anyhow, Okay, so written by Aisha. This was directed by our favorite Dean Holland, who we know and love from Parks, but also The Office, a ton of other amazing shows. He really was such a backbone of this editing and why this mockumentary style was so wonderful and funny because of his editing. So I love to see when he directs so he can lend that to the show. It's really cool to see. And then also kind of like bittersweet, but also wonderful and sad and beautiful all at the same time. Again, bittersweet. We have new camera operators in this season. So our favorite Shauna Hagen, who always reached out to me and did in she stopped in season 4. She did seasons 1 through 4 of Parks. And because she was working on her DP career, director of photography and cinematography career, which is going so well, by the way, Shauna. I don't think you're listening, but if you are, congratulations. And you guys should really check out the shows and the movies and all the things she's worked on. She works on Somebody Somewhere. The show is called Somebody Somewhere on HBO. And she shot documentaries as well, has DP'd so many wonderful award-winning things. She's amazing. And she also has a precious baby boy. I don't know if he's really a baby anymore, but he is still a baby. No, I mean, it hasn't been that long. I don't think he's a toddler yet, but yeah. So anyways, congratulations on being a mom and all those things. But yes, so we have new camera operators. And like I said, Shauna reached out to me so many times from seasons 1 to 4. So, and like, well, I should say I reached out to her. Let's be real. I reached out to her and really worked that question asking skills that I have. And I was just telling her skills is a strong word, but asked her so many questions about behind the scenes things from the show, and she was just so kind and generous with her time. We actually did a full interview with her a while back now, so you guys should go check that out. I'll post it in the show notes because she has such a wonderful eye and she loves her job so much, and she's so good at it, and I'm just so happy to see her thrive. So go watch Somebody Somewhere on HBO Max, and watch all the other things that she's been in, or that she's worked on, I should say. But anyway, Tom McGill is our new DP, and Tom was a camera operator with Shauna as well in previous seasons. So Tom is now our DP. I don't know if I guess that's technically a promotion. So congratulations to Tom retroactively. And I hope to talk to him soon. We've touched base via email a couple times, but we haven't actually gotten a chance to, have a voice memo or sent or an email, not an email, or a one-on-one interview. So hopefully that works out eventually, because I'd love to hear because last time the person who was DPing it, the last time I checked was Mike Trim, who has worked on a ton of things, and he was one of the interviewers who he liked his vibe is a little bit more artsy, a little bit more Vogue kind of feeling, colorful music videos. He worked on Madonna's music video, things like that. And so this was like such a switch up for him. And I'm not sure if it was like his mega passion. But like I think he liked who he worked with, that's for sure. But so it was really an interesting perspective to get. So I'd love to hear Tom McGill's DP perspective as well. But our new camera operators right now are Johnny Martin and Jacob Pinger. So you guys, I'm sure you're not listening, but I will be reaching out to you, and I want to know if Shauna and Tom kind of mentored them. Was it nice to have Tom there as a camera operator previously, or are these guys just like always have been professional, had been in the industry for a million years, so they didn't really need that much direction or like told what to do? Because I think it's a little bit more common now, but back with Parks and The Office and Modern Family and stuff, that kind of camera angle was newer, I feel. So they might, and I don't know if it's necessarily trained in schools now, but maybe it is now because it's a new form of filming. I don't know. Or maybe you just pick it up. I don't know. I'm just curious to hear what exactly the process was for learning how to be on this set, because no matter what, job you have, you're always going to be learning something new. So, and you're always going to be bringing skills, but it's always different because it's a case-by-case basis on how the set runs, So that's really interesting to me. Okay, anyway, that was kind of my brief introduction to this episode. I will go ahead and play our summary now for Maddie.
Hi, Holly and everybody. Maddie here to give you a summary for Miss Knope Goes to Washington, which we are starting season 5, as I'm sure Holly has already mentioned, and we're super excited about that. Big things coming now that Leslie Knope is a city councilwoman. So I have a summary for you, and then I have some thoughts. Okay, so here's my summary. Here we go. Road trip. Leslie and Andy go to visit Ben and April in Washington, D.C., while Ben and April work on a campaign. Leslie is excited to be in our nation's capital, but slowly begins to feel like a small fish in a very, very, very big river. Meanwhile, in Pawnee, Ron is in charge of an employee appreciation barbecue in which no one feels appreciated. So, love this Ben, April, Andy, Leslie situation, because as we go into season 7, and we kind of look into the future, it's the 4 of them kind of migrating together. And so it's really cool to see the beginning stages of that here, and kind of the dynamics of Andy and Leslie, and then April and Ben, and then kind of when they're all 4 together, kind of what the dynamics are. So I'm really excited about that, and that we're getting to kind of see that. This is such a huge learning experience for Leslie. The reason I said big river instead of big pond is because of the river cleanup she's trying to get put together, being in Washington, D.C. I love that she's just like, I want to go visit my boyfriend, but also I can be doing my job at the same time. So I'm going to do that. I relate to that. So just her always on top of it. But this is like really disconcerting for her, because she's like, look at how much effort I'm having to put in. Like there's this many Pawnees in the United States. That's so sad. And then it's like, so she doesn't feel special. She doesn't feel like her town is special anymore. It's a really sad moment, but also like something I think she kind of needed to see how far she was going to go. Because as we know, sometimes we see this, stars in our eyes mentality with Leslie, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's also like, a reality that we need to be in line with when we put those dreams out in the world. Otherwise it's just going to be really disappointing. So I'm glad that this is happening now, that she's saying, oh my gosh, this is how much work's going to be done before I get here, and I make a difference on this bigger scale. But what I love is that she has her moment, and then she realizes how she can make a difference in her town, and that's still important. And it's an important step on her journey to making a bigger step, later in her career, right? So I just think while this is kind of a sad moment while we watch this episode, it's also, I think, really awesome. So there's that. And then Ron, listen. You couldn't have just had like veggie plates and chips and shit out while you waited. And also, why did you think that you were going to slaughter a pig that he so lovingly called Tom? Why did you think you were going to do that? The thought process is not there. I understand wanting to actually physically make the food. I think that's a wonderful sentiment. And I love that about Ron, because that's one of his love languages is food. So I'm really happy that he's doing that. But it's like, at what cost? Like, you should have come with the meat prepared. You could have grilled it. It would have taken 45 minutes, but you could have also had chips and brownies and other shit out, and it would have been fine. And I'm really proud that we're seeing this glimpse of Chris, like a more put together Chris here, who kind of nudges him back in the right direction. So I'm really happy about that. So those are my thoughts on this episode. I'm excited to hear what Holly kind of discusses with all of you. And if you guys have any comments, I'm excited to read those. I will see you in the next episode.
Awesome. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Maddie, for that. We will see you hopefully in the next episode. Thank you so much for all of your insight and your summaries. I appreciate them. Okay, so I found an article, actually a couple of articles, when Adam Scott and Amy Poehler were talking to a couple different news outlets, or I guess entertainment outlets, about what it was like to film in DC. Because heads up and fun fact, trivia moment, certain things were filmed in Washington, DC. And it's kind of funny because I don't think that they expected that back in season 4. I don't know if they were anticipating that it was actually going to be filmed in DC. So it's kind of interesting to hear, because in this article from E! News, there's a quote from Amy Poehler saying he's about Ben's character. He's got to go. She can't hold him back. Amy insisted when we pleaded for Ben to stay. But imagine how much fun government fangirl Leslie will have visiting her BF, boyfriend, in the nation's capital. Amy hints that we'll see Leslie in DC, though it hasn't been decided yet where they would technically shoot these scenes. I don't know if we'll shoot on location, but the idea of us being in that big arena in Washington, D.C., all of us knuckleheads, that would be pretty funny. Also, side note, my air conditioning came on, and if you can hear it, I'm so sorry, but it's hot as hell in Tennessee, and I just can't deal without it. So it'll go off soon. Okay. And let's see. Oh, yeah. So there was another article that I found. So back to that one, though. That one was just saying, like, they're not sure if they're going to be in D.C. And then I found another article. Let's see, what is this? This is from the Smithsonian magazine itself, which is, I guess it's its online thing. Okay. And I did have to turn off my air conditioning just because it was a little too loud just for even me, but, well, just for a little bit. You don't need to know this backstory. Anyway, so in this article with actual Smithsonian magazine, Amy Poehler is quoted as saying, "To go in this capacity and shoot in the Smithsonian is really cool," says Poehler. "A packed schedule of filming has kept Poehler jumping from the Lincoln Memorial, the Hay Adams Hotel, the White House, and the mall. On set, she jokes, what I've seen so far is what I've been standing in front of, and I think what I've been standing in front of is a giant locomotive," which again is that scene with Andy on top of the train, which we'll talk about. And then Adam Scott says, about to wander the museum with his 40 spare minutes. Scott says, "I haven't been here since I was 12, so I'm actually very excited." He says with a laugh, "When I was 12, my main interest was the area with the television history and seeing the MASH setup and Archie Bunker's chair. My horizons haven't broadened that much, but I'd like to think I'm interested in a bit more than that now." And then Amy Poehler said, "The coolest thing about being in D.C. is that we've been shooting all over, and the worst part is that we've been spending about 10 minutes in every location." So I think that's really interesting that she didn't really get to see that much of D.C. Well, when they were shooting anyway. I don't know if she stayed extra days maybe, but I don't know. I wouldn't imagine that she stayed that long. She says, "My character Leslie Knope has to be impressed with D.C. when she arrives, and that's very easy to do because D.C. is very impressive." And she also says she feels like a bit of a country mouse when she gets here. The Indiana Parks Department are kind of overwhelmed by the size of D.C., which I think that's really interesting. And yeah, it just reminds everybody that Leslie's wanted to run for president since she was 8. Amy Poehler also said that. And it does say this was another thing too that I was kind of curious about, like if they thought about doing this in the future, going to DC in the future again. And it says, the article says, "The city seems to be agreeing with the cast, and Scott didn't rule out, but didn't really rule in either, the possibility of future filming. We like being here, and maybe it will happen." And this is like random, and then I'm almost done with this. Asked what object she would pick to represent today's society in the Smithsonian collection, Poehler says, "My first thought was a Dorito, but maybe that's just because I'm hungry right now." Reconsidering, she adds, "I'm going to say maybe those baby diapers that look like jeans, or maybe a Snuggie or Slanket, one or the other." Oh my gosh, the hold that Snuggies had on all of us with commercials and with like thinking how cool they were. Oh my God. And then they were talking about how it would be cool to have Parks and Rec represented at the Smithsonian because Amy Poehler said for any part of Parks and Rec to be represented here would be really, really cool. So yeah, and Mike, there's a picture here. I'm going to post this article in the show notes, but Mike Schur and Amy Poehler and everybody, there's like just behind the scenes pictures of everybody shooting and filming. So yeah, that looks so cool. And I'm so glad that she got to do that they all got to do that. But yeah, it's kind of cool to hear that they didn't know that they were going to be in DC shooting, which is interesting. All right. First things first, into this episode, because of us being in DC now, we really get to incorporate all these political heroes and women that Leslie has looked up. It's so, so stunning and such an incredible way to illustrate how far she's come, really, and how far she has yet to go. So we're standing in front of the Capitol in this cold open, which Andy not only thinks looks like a boob, but he also thinks it's the White House. So That's kind of hilarious. And then this is like Disneyland for Leslie. I love that she's enjoying it so much, and Andy is just the quintessential tourist with his New Balance shoes and his cargo pants and his mouse rat shirt, which is freaking hilarious. I also think he's speaking for every American that has no idea how bills are made or where bills are made. So like when he's talking about, that this White House is actually the Capitol and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that he's learning and that Leslie's trying to teach him. And then this is where Leslie has a talking head that Ben is there for the congressional campaign. And they show a clip of April being with him because Ben brought her to work with him as an intern, and she slaps his phone down like in this scene that they're showing of them walking together. Woof. I am not a fan of April in this first couple episodes of this season. I mean, I know that she's always had her troubles, and they do keep, like she was doing so great with feeling empathy, still having flaws. Like I like when she talked to Tom about like what she cares about, if you guys remember the time when she was like, well, I want Leslie to win, and I love Champion and Andy, and I like sleeping, so like it was nice to see that part of her, but I really don't like that we're kind of regressing into this like childish, I don't know, kind of just bratty April, and it sucks. And maybe that's because I'm also imagining what happens in later episodes with her drawing that picture of Ben. That really sucks. But I don't understand why Ben took her. It's really interesting because I feel like she just constantly gets in these scenarios where like any other person, if she had this personality, would not be invited, but she is part of the parks department. So I just feel like sometimes I feel like even bringing Andy would have been better, because at least he would have been like a good attitude, but I don't know, it is what it is. Plus Andy is technically Leslie's assistant, so I don't know. It's just weird that now Andy and April, those knuckleheads, are now split between the two most, most accomplished and smart people, which I guess is good because they can be mentors, but they're not good people they're people, Ben and Leslie are people that need a good assistant. They need someone to help with their schedule and stuff like that. Now, that being said, Leslie's going to do a lot of shit on her own. She's not going to, she needs time to, delegate, but it's okay. My question, bottom line, is why did Ben take April? But we'll suspend that reality for the show. Leslie says she's here to visit, but also to work because she's getting federal funding to clean the Pawnee River. It looks awful. It really does. So I understand why you're trying to get a grant for that. I love this. She has a waffle sundae. This looks so good. I don't know where she would have gotten it in DC, but I'm so happy that she did. Also, she's kind of moving her arms below the screen, like shrugging almost, and it really seems like she's not carrying this waffle sundae under her, but like under the screen, like the shot they got of her. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Did they have like a table underneath her? Was she holding the waffle the whole time? Like a table with the waffle sundae on top of it is what I mean to say. Or yeah, how did that work? Life's unanswerable questions. I'd love to know. This is where I need, I guess, the camera operators to get in here. Anyway, Andy throws the guidebook away as instructed, even though it was a joke, and he throws it hard. Like, that really could not have hit someone. Or that really could have hit someone. Like, that could have gone not well. I know how to speak. Anyway, so I wonder if they practiced it. Him throwing that, and then made sure that the extras weren't like in the direct line of sight. But honestly, line of sight, line of sight. Oh my God, you guys, we're doing our best. But I don't think they would have practiced it, honestly, just knowing from the past how Pratt has thrown things and broken things on set before, aka the light switch at the Eagleton birth certificate place. So probably not. It probably just happened. Anyway, then they say there's a national mall, and Andy thinks it's an actual shopping mall, but the National Mall refers to the park/green outside of the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial, and a ton of museums, Smithsonian's. Its nickname is actually called America's Front Yard, which is actually really funny. But anyway, I actually looked up why this is called a mall because I didn't understand it, and here is what I found from the internet. If you guys want to correct me, I'd be happy to hear it, because whatever. But this is what I found. So the name is derived from the mall in London, which during the 1700s was a fashionable promenade near Buckingham Palace, upon which the city's elite strolled. So then I was like, well, why is the mall in London called that? Like, is that an American term that we just randomly came up with, mall, or probably not, because America is a melting pot of a lot of different cultures. And the name is derived from pell mell, also pronounced like pell mall, which is croquet for us. So the field game, where you're hitting the colorful balls through the little rings. That was a game that was introduced by King Charles, who traditionally played that game in St. James Park. So that's really interesting. Because that is why it's called the Mall, because of that game, evidently. And during King Charles' second reign in 1660, he ordered the redesign of St. James Park, which is where they played this game. And this included a centerpiece, a straight canal, 2,560 feet long and 125 feet wide, lined on each side with avenues of trees. And I looked it up on the map, on Google Maps, and it really does look similar to the DC Mall, especially with the water, the water that's in front of the Lincoln Memorial, like the reflecting pool thing that's ending in Buckingham Palace, but on the London, so on the London side. With that comparison, so I'm sorry, Ron, but we got the American Mall from the English Mall, so in London, so. But the area now is a straight street, basically, just a straight canal, because it was a canal originally, like I said before. But it's used for the changing of the guard ceremonies, royal events like coronations, weddings, funerals, lots of stuff. So those processions that you see in The Crown, if you watch The Crown, or if you watch it on actual live TV, that is where that mall is, what that canal is. So, and that is thanks to King Charles II. So, intriguing, very intriguing. Anyway, so now Ron is leading a meeting. Everyone's laughing, but it ain't funny because everyone's laughing at him being able to lead a meeting. But he's serious. He is going to throw, get this, the Leslie Knope Employment Enjoyment Summer Slam Grill Jam Fun Splosion. Oh my. Retta had to say that. And I would love to ask Retta, how did you do that? How did you pronounce that? That's crazy. Anyway, so there's going to be a popsicle contest, a slip and slide, watermelon carving, gazpacho off, parks and dolls. Oh my gosh, this is so funny to me. Jerry starts singing. Side note, that is based off Guys and Dolls. For those of you who don't know musical theater, Guys and Dolls is a famous Broadway musical. So she made it Parks and Dolls, and Jerry, oh my gosh, so funny. I just love that they all remember this. It really made an impression on them. It's so exciting. You got your park right here. Its name is Ramsett Park, and its gates are open from dawn till dark. Oh my god, it's great. Check it out, Guys and Dolls as well. I feel like the brand, I mean, I guess it's all very musical theatery, but even that genre of Guys and Dolls kind of fits with what she wrote for the melody for that. So anyhow, so they do what do they do? Oh, yeah, they show a brief clip of fun mascots and all these people, fun things happening. It really looks incredible. And a part of me was like, this was literally like a 2-second clip for that huge park event to be filmed. So I bet that took a lot of setup just for that 2-second clip. And honestly, I feel like as the show progresses, we're going to do more and more of that, just like spending a big budget on like 2 seconds, which honestly, I always think about that with, if you guys watch Scrubs with all of his different fantasies, I'm just like, that production for that 5-second fantasy probably costed a lot, but I'm sure there's like some cheap cuts, you know what I mean, that you could do. Anyhow, that's just how my brain worked. But Ron says barbecue kind of funny. Like he puts I don't know how to, he puts like a bubble in his mouth before he says barbecue, or like he puts an M in front of it, like barbecue. And I'm just like, barbecue. Anyway, that was silly, but I just had to point it out, okay? I want soap bubble guns, by the way. I would love a soap bubble gun. That would be so great. And so fun, and like the equivalent of like flowers coming out. You know what I mean? Like a beautiful, innocent, pure summer goodness moment. I love that. I also love that he says no bleeping vegetables. No corn on the cob even, which sucks. And he's, like I said, Ron is very serious about this. He's not playing around. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I've decided that I think I might go live now. Okay, so Andy's on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial referencing National Treasure movies, and everything in those movies is a clue. And gross, he can take gum and just figure, that's just disgusting that he can just pick that up. For those of you just joining, hello, live people. This is going to be wild. But hello, everyone. So welcome. We're on season 5 premiere. Miss Knope Goes to Washington. Okay, moving on. And I'm sorry, you guys, that if you're listening on the podcast and this is like weird for you, but this is just what we're doing. Okay, so Leslie is sharing her knowledge of the construction of the memorial, and she started to talk about how the color changes halfway through. And I wanted to finish that sentence for her because I know that she would like that, and I know that she would want that. Okay, so when Washington Memorial, Washington Monument was under construction in 1854, the Washington National Monument Society ran out of money and the project ground to a halt, okay? So 25 years later, the U.S. government took over and completed the upper 2/3 of the structure by 1884 using marble from a different quarry. So we've got 2 different types of marbles happening, okay? The 2 sections closely resembled each other at first, but time, wind, rain, corrosion, erosion, all that kind of stuff have caused the marble sections to weather differently, thereby producing the difference in color. So a third type of marble is also visible at the dividing line between the 2 main phases of construction. So that is why I didn't realize that. I knew that it was 2 different colors, but I never knew why, and they just ran out of money. Classic story of our government, but also of just the world in general. You ran out of money, you got to stop until you get the money. Okay. Andy says to Leslie, okay, this is a really cool penis, but we have to meet Ben in April. And I love that Andy asks which nation. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. Because Leslie says in 1776 a nation was born. And oh my gosh, Andy, which nation? All right, so Chris has cut his hair, it looks like, to me, and he says he turned down the job that Ron, Ron turned down the job that Chris offered him. But Ron can't hear him, and I think that even if he had heard him, he wouldn't have turned around, to be honest, because Chris was like, way to be, Ron. No, Ron would not entertain that. Also, I guess now we're still looking for Ben's replacement. I'm very intrigued about that because I don't really know how exactly we're going through that right now. We haven't really talked about who we're looking for, who's going to be replacing Ben because Ben's in DC now, all that kind of stuff. Side note, this was filmed near Lake Balboa in Los Angeles, and they said it was such a hot day. Everyone was sweating through their makeup, and it really shows. Ron brings a pig to be slaughtered at the barbecue, which is awful. Oh my god. Not only weird and inhumane, but also like so unsanitary. There are rules in place to make sure you're not eating bad pork, and Ron just doesn't care, and it makes sense. I also hate that his name is Tom. Like, why would you give him a name to humanize him? That makes it worse. And I don't know. There is this place called the Gentle Farm in Tennessee that I went to with a couple of friends, and I just felt like now I feel like it's really terrible to eat pigs and bacon. And it's like, it's really sad because they're so cute and they're so like beautiful animals. I mean, they're dirty, but they're beautiful animals and like cute. But they can get violent too. But eating your meat would be tough. Meeting your meat. Anyway, Ron says he has a permit, but it just says, I can do what I want in total Ron fashion. This park ranger, I totally forgot that this park ranger says exactly what I was thinking as far as health codes, and it's like totally against the law, breaks a lot of rules. Side note, this park ranger's name is Ben Zelevansky, and he was awesome. The name they gave him was Ranger Patrick, by the way, which I think is so fun. But he's been in the Goldbergs, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, American Crime Story, The Muppets Mayhem, if anyone is a fan of that. He was also a driver in Modern Family, which I'm going to have to go back and watch because Modern Family has been my like happy place show for right now in this moment to like play in the background while I'm doing dishes or just in general fall asleep to, that kind of stuff. So, which I love watching it just as a regular audience member, but it's my comfort show at this moment. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch him in that. Also, fun fact: he had a series called Bad Shorts, and he wrote and produced and starred in them with Deanna Moore, who I worked with back in my LA days, and she is so awesome and wonderful, such a great person to work with. Plus, she was an extra in Andy and April's wedding, and she gets some good screen time. So we're coming full circle because in the canon of Parks and Rec, she's like, I guess a friend of somebody. I don't know how she got invited, but she's a friend or a relative of somebody from Andy and April. So that's fun that them two got to be in Parks in like the same universe, if you will. But fun fact is that I got a wonderful voice memo from him, so I'm gonna go ahead and play that for you now. And I haven't listened to this, so just a fair warning, it is a little bit longer, but I'm so excited to listen to it because I know that he's amazing.
Hi, Holly and Maddie. Thank you so much for inviting me on Park Pals, and congratulations on scraping the absolute bottom of the barrel on guests. My name is Ben Zelevansky, and as I'm sure your audience knows, I played Ranger Patrick in episode 501 of the show, Ms. Knope Goes to Washington. And even though I was cast as a park ranger on a show that is ostensibly about parks, that did end up being my only appearance on the show. This was back in 2012. I had really just started acting at that point. I had met Marlies Gunzenhauser, who was a casting associate in Dorian Frankel's office at the time. I met her at a casting workshop, and I guess I was fresh in her mind because pretty much the next week, I think it was, she called me in to read for Parks and Rec. I was super excited that I loved the show. I still love the show. And I had, as I said, I was just starting out. I hadn't really auditioned all that much. So the possibility of getting a part on a show that I loved, opposite a character that I loved, I was pretty excited about it. Also, the scene itself is great because my character wasn't just there to kind of tee up the series regular and let them be funny. It was me. I got to actually be funny in it as well. That doesn't always happen on these shows, but in a Mike Schur or a Dan Gore show, that happens pretty frequently. And I got another opportunity like that later down the line. I got to do an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine opposite Andre Braugher, the late, great Andre Braugher, who I also loved. And it was the same kind of experience where I wasn't just there to set him up. I was there to be funny. And, the worlds that these guys create, everybody's funny or interesting. There are no wasted characters. So I think that's a big part of why people love Parks and Rec and all their other shows so much. As far as the audition itself, it was pretty standard. Like I said, I was nervous because it was a great opportunity, and I had made the decision because, earlier on in the show, they had established that Ron was kind of like this mythical figure to people in Pawnee, and they would speak his name in hushed tones and just sort of be in awe of him all the time. And so I came in and did it like that, like almost, apologetically, that I was having to prevent him from barbecuing this live pig in the middle of the park. But Dorian redirected me and to do it pretty much the way you ended up seeing it on the show, which was more matter of fact and more like a guy who was just a little bored with his job. So as I say, I was still pretty green at that point, and I remember feeling bummed that I had made what I thought was the wrong choice to start out with, and I wasn't sure how well I had followed her redirection in the moment. And so I have a sort of a memory of feeling like I had kind of blown it. But when you are an actor, you kind of have to put these things behind you and forget about them. And following that, enough time had passed. I was pretty sure I hadn't gotten it. And I had previously I'd scheduled a trip back east to visit my parents. But there's sort of an old showbiz adage that as soon as you leave town, that's when you book a job. And that's what ended up happening. I remember being on the East Coast and telling my wife that I had gotten the part, and she was so excited and happy for me. And my parents were so excited, but they were a little less happy because I had to cut our visit short and fly back early to shoot the show. The day of the shoot itself, we shot on location in Lake Balboa Park in Van Nuys, which I'm pretty sure was the location they used for Ramsett Park throughout the run of the show. It's a pretty big park, and so I'm sure they had plenty of different spots that they used to make it look different each time. I remember being a little bummed about shooting on location because I wasn't going to get to be like in the office or on the actual set of Pawnee, and it was also crazy hot that day. Just brutally hot. Even Rob Lowe was sweating. And when Chris Traeger is overheated, something is definitely out of whack. But other than the heat, it was really just the most amazing day. I got there, I got into wardrobe, I went into the makeup trailer, and Nick Offerman was already there. He introduced himself, which the stars don't always do, but which is a lovely thing you can do to make your guest cast feel more welcome and comfortable. There's a little tip for any of you sitcom stars who may be listening to this. So anyway, I told Nick that I had just worked with Megan Mullally on a show called Breaking In. That was, are people applauding? All right, I'll wait for the applause to die down. Anyway, I had mentioned to Nick that, hey, I just worked with your wife, and he said, well, that makes you one incredibly lucky bastard. And so that was my first interaction with Nick Offerman. Shooting the scene itself was kind of unremarkable. I was really just focused on not screwing up. I think people wanted to move through as quickly as they could because of the heat, and because the show was already a pretty well-oiled machine at that point, and there was no need to tweak anything with the script. Everybody knew the visual style they were going for. It was directed by Dean Holland, who directed a ton of episodes for them. So we maybe only did it 3 or 4 times just to make sure they had enough coverage. And then they asked me to stick around for a little bit just so I could be in the background of some of the other shots, for continuity purposes. So I think they grouped me with Rashida, Aziz, and Jim. And I think Rob and Retta were sort of in another little pocket somewhere. But I got to chat and hang out and take pictures with everybody at one point or another over the course of the day. And just everybody, they just couldn't have been nicer. Rashida, especially, for someone who, of her stature, was way nicer than you could ever hope or dream or expect. And Jim O'Hare, who is possibly the nicest person in this business or any other business. We ended up staying in touch and becoming friendly, and we used to run into each other around town here and there, and he ended up doing a scene in a web series that I was producing just because he was a good guy. So it was great. We're still in touch and friendly today. So it was a great day, a great experience. The scene came out so funny. I had it on my reel forever. I'm sure that I booked other jobs because of it. And even though I never made it back to Pawnee after that day, the legacy of Ranger Patrick still lives on in GIF form. Tumblr was a big deal back then, and I think the official Parks and Rec Tumblr had posted a GIF of the "Not to Worry, I Have a Permit" bit, and people either picked up on it either from there or from the show and started making their own versions of it, finding a way to sort of bend it or adapt it to fit whatever point they were trying to make online. And I still have friends that send it to me from time to time if they see it pop up in the wild somewhere. So yeah, it was a great experience. I felt so lucky to have that day, especially so early in my career. And Dorian and Marlize continued to call me in. They definitely cast me in at least 1 or 2 other things after that. And so yeah, to coin a phrase, I literally could not have asked for more. It's hard to believe that was 12 years ago. And it's been all downhill since for me. No, actually, that was the start of a really nice run. I got to do a bunch of other shows over the years after that, many of which were shows that I loved, which is always a great bonus. You can see all clips of most of those on my website, which is benzelevansky.com. And assuming Hollywood doesn't destroy itself in the near future, you should be able to catch me in the fall on an episode of a new show, St. Denis Medical. It's a new NBC sitcom with Wendy McClendon-Covey, who I was lucky to work with on Goldberg's a few times, and David Alan Grier, who I've loved forever and everyone has loved forever, and Allison Tolman, who was so great on the first season of Fargo, so many other things. And the show is created by Justin Spitzer, who did Superstore and American Auto, which are 2 other shows that Parks fans will love if they don't already. And carrying on my tradition of playing guys who have to wear uniforms to work, I've got to play a dumb cop in a new horror comedy movie called Get Off My Lawn, from a director named Amara Cash, who is an amazing talent that I think you may be hearing a lot about in the near future. That's coming out on Tubi. I don't know exactly when, but maybe for Halloween. That would make sense. But nobody's asking me. I also have a little production company of my own called Lucky Birds Media that we do some fun stuff from time to time. any of the real hardcore Ranger Patrick heads out there can check out luckybirdsmedia.com for more information there. So, guys, thank you again so much for asking me to do this. I hope it was entertaining or educational, or at least helped kill a little time on the podcast. So, hey, Pawnee for life, and I'll catch y'all down at Paunchburger.
Oh my God. That is so good, Ben. Thank you so much. Oh, Ranger Patrick heads. Yes, Chris, that's what I was thinking too. Side note, Chris, Ben Zelevansky, actually, the Lucky Birds Media, I think that he's talking about, he did some Bad Shorts. It's called Bad Shorts. And he worked with Deanna. I always look at her name and say, Dina, but it's Deanna, who worked with us at an acting studio at one point. And Deanna, like I said before, also was a background in Andy and April's wedding, which was so funny that they're still in this universe. But oh my gosh, that was so great, Ben. Oh my God. Okay, first of all, I wrote notes. I know, right? So first of all, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Oh my God, incredible. Can't believe you got to work with him. Yes, rest in peace. No wasted characters. I love that line. I love that description. No wasted characters. I totally agree. Love that. Not getting the job until you leave. Woof. Can we just moment of silence for all of the auditions / things, callbacks, whatever that you may or may not have booked just by leaving? Woof. Okay. Working with Dean Holland. I actually did not even think about that. I should have picked your brain a little bit more about that, which I still might, honestly, because I can't imagine. I've always loved the idea of him directing when he was such a backbone of, love you too. Bye, Chris. Because he was always such a backbone of Parks and Rec and The Office and in general. And so I was always just like, this is amazing, because I think that having a director who also knows how to edit, that mind, watching that work must be really interesting. So I love that. Oh my gosh, Tumblr. Are you freaking kidding me? Hilarious. I definitely remember Tumblr, and I definitely remember shows having their own Tumblrs. St. Denis Medical and the other show on Tubi, I will make sure that I put all of that in the show notes. I'll also put your IMDb in the show notes and tag you on Instagram so that we can go ahead and follow you. Ranger Patrick heads. Oh my God. Love that so much. That is the note, the most prominent note that I have. So anyways, okay. So that was Ben Zelevansky. Thank you again so much. That was incredible. I am so happy that I got to hear that. So thank you. And the quality of your recording sounded great, so thank you for that as well. Okay, moving on. I love Retta's outfit / dress here. I think it's wonderful. So I just wanted to do a little shout out for that because it looks great. Very summery and springy, if you will. Okay, so now we're at the Smithsonian, which, by the way, is really funny that they didn't specify which Smithsonian, because there are tons of Smithsonians. Like, if you say the Smithsonian, how many times can you say Smithsonian? If you say that, you really do have to specify which one, I feel. So it's kind of interesting that they just kind of picked one out. I, for that reason, looked up which one they were at in particular. This one is the National Museum of American History, or NMAH. I don't know how many people actually call it that. Andy and April are making out in front of the train in the National Museum of American History's exhibit, America on the Move. And I would be very intrigued to see if that's still there, because I know exhibits are always changing in museums, so I'm very intrigued to see if that's still there. Pretty wonderful. Andy, get off the train. Get off the train. Oh my gosh, you're a grown man. I know you're a child man, but come on. Oh God, awful. Such a child. This museum security officer tells Andy to get off. And I thought that was written and acted so well. Like, with those tiny little things, you definitely could be overacting it. But I wonder, overacting it, meaning like you could have been like, okay, get down. Like being a real, kind of bitch about it. But he was great. He was like, hey, buddy, get down there for me, please, which is exactly how you would treat a child. So I thought that was really good writing and acting. I couldn't find this museum worker on IMDb, so I wonder if he really was a security officer and he wasn't acting at all. I don't know. I kind of hope so, even though I want an actor to get it. I do want that. But still, if you are that officer, let me know. Okay, so Ben shows up, and then Andy and April make out, / basically start having sex in front of the train. Respect for at least being honest, because Andy's trying to cover and say they're going to do something else or can't figure out how to tell her that they're leaving. And I honestly just think, okay, well, at least April's upfront about it. So, no lollygagging. All right. Ben can't stay, unfortunately, which I feel like he should have told Leslie that before getting her hopes up that she was going to get to hang out with him and sightsee, but that's fine. I mean, I get it. But I guess he just wanted to see her and, hug her and make sure that, they got a chance to have a little moment. But I feel like he should have told her that and set her expectations, but maybe she would have been frustrated. Either way, I do love Amy's look to Ben's butt. That's a really fun runner/bit in this episode. Love that. Okay, back at the barbecue, Tom and Anne are arguing because Tom is grumpy and hot, and Anne brought a picnic blanket, but it's actually a merino blanket for his Eames chair. And Eames chair, I had to Google it. I almost didn't because I was like, Tom, this is just some stupid stuff that I don't even need to know. But an Eames chair, it looks like a Mad Men type of chair, like total 80s vibe with a little ottoman. 80s, I don't know when Mad Men was, but it's just like a more olden time chair, and it has a little ottoman. The cheapest one that I could find on Walmart was $800, and that's at Walmart. So hello, the rest, like if you want a real one, or like anywhere from $3,000 and more for a chair in like an interesting shape. Oh, Tom. Okay. Which again makes sense why he's saying if he loses this bet with Donna, he will go bankrupt. Okay. Which Donna senses trouble that Anne and Tom are not actually together, and they try to cover it. But like I said, Tom bet Donna $1,000, and I mean, a part of me feels like he's already bankrupt. Like when he says like this will bankrupt me, I'm like, you're already bankrupted. What are you talking about? So anyhow, I also love Anne's hair here. I know that's really random, but I really love her hair here, and because she has some like blonde streaks in there that weren't in there last season, and her bangs and curls are really cool looking, so I'm just admiring that. Also, they do end up sitting on that picnic blanket, so Tom must have folded and said, okay, fine, I'll sit down, even though it's an expensive blanket. Okay, I don't think that it will actually take Ron a couple of hours to start grilling, because usually after the grill is like good and hot, like the grilling itself, I feel, doesn't usually take that long in my experience. You know what I mean? Now, I will say if you're cooking for a bajillion people like he is, sure. But I would assume that Tom and Anne and everybody can start eating pretty fairly quickly. However, then he says, he has to de-thaw everything. Or de-thaw. He has to thaw everything. Defrost is what I meant to say. I don't know. But he's getting frustrated because everyone's asking questions, and everyone's just like being very picky and just being overwhelming, I feel, when all Ron wants to do is cook and grill in peace. And then he has this sexy grill virgin metaphor. Him and Tammy would be really getting off on this, I feel. This is their kink. And he has a Charles Mulligan apron, and I love that too. Everything just really ties together with that. Love it. Let's see here. All right, moving on. Leslie is going to the Department of the Interior, which is what all the parks are under, and they're responsible for management and conservation of most of federal lands and natural resources. So Department of Interior is what all Parks and Rec departments are underneath. And I think that, oh my gosh, can you imagine, like, being Leslie Knope, going to the Mecca? Oof. That fills my heart with joy for her. Well, in this moment, because I know it's going to tumble down in a moment. But she has her own signature dance move. I just love this because this is totally, I feel like, I mean, not to say that she didn't practice this, but this is so Amy Poehler, just like improvising a ooh, 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 2, 3, 4. And then the police officer comes in and shuts her down. But anyway, she goes into the office and is basically blindsided because there's supposed to be an appointment/presentation, but the person who she was going to present isn't there and isn't available for the rest of the week, which, classic, such a bummer, such a disappointment. And it's such a gut-wrenching thing to see so many piles of applications on, in this office, in these bins. It's just, it's heartbreaking for Leslie, especially because she has a CD that goes with her presentation. She's got this amazing binded presentation that she's been working really hard on, and it's just very sad, and it keeps getting sadder. You know what I mean? This worker asks what city it's for. So the worker at the Department of the Interior asks what city it's for, so the person that she was meant to meet with can read it, and she says Pawnee, and the worker types in Pawnee and lists a bunch of different Pawnees in different states, and it's such a good illustration / kind of vehicle to get us to see that Pawnee, Indiana is not special or unique to anyone but her. And no one's going to care about this as much as her, even though she spent so much time on this presentation. And it's such a punch to the gut, man. And the way that she says Indiana and the way that she kind of mumbles it because she's so heartbroken but trying to stay in the game, Indiana. It's so heartbreaking. And Amy Poehler just did such a good job here. This worker for the Department of the Interior is played by Amy Tolsky, and she's incredible. I really loved her performance, and I just really loved how, like, natural and real and, like, you know, kind of bureaucratic, but trying to be nice, but mostly bureaucratic. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'll deal with this. She's been in a lot of stuff, though. All Rise, Jury Duty, Never Have I Ever, Quiz Lady, which is the most recent movie that I saw, that has Awkwafina and Sandra Oh and Will Ferrell in it, so I need to watch that. But, yeah, she actually said, Amy Tolsky, the one who played this worker, is hopefully going to message me because I've been in touch with her agent, so we'll have to play that next week, or whenever the next podcast is. So hopefully that will happen. Anyway, so now we're back, and Andy is saying this whole thing is April's office because we're at Ben's office, and it's not. It's Ben's. I love that Ben is constantly or just like consistently doing his work, keeping his head down, but still listening enough to say nope. Love that. Then Leslie comes in to Ben's office and doesn't tell him about how the meeting went. She hides it, and Ben shares that there's a party she wants her to go to. And, this is, again, heartbreaking because Leslie is just trying to save face a little bit, and I don't think she wants, there's so many emotions, like she doesn't want to ruin what he's got going, which we'll talk about a little bit later when she explains that, but she also feels embarrassed that she didn't get to get her achievement done, and she's probably feeling a little heartbroken, doesn't even know what to think about it, or doesn't even know how to process that happened because she had planned on having a meeting. So that sucks. It's just, so sad. Side note, Hey Adams is a historic hotel, and the bar in there is called Off the Record. So this is a historic hotel and pretty famous, where people would discuss political moves and have their little schmoozy moments, which is why it might be called Off the Record, because if you've watched Veep before, you know that there are places that they go to meet with reporters and things like that to discuss political moves, and, campaign strategies, things like that sometimes, and, what exactly is happening. So yeah, might be called Off the Record for that reason as well. But locally, it's known as downtown Washington, D.C.'s best place to be seen and heard. And not heard, should I say. I just effed up the punchline. Best place to be... Take two. Locally, it is known as downtown Washington, D.C.'s best place to be seen and not heard. There you go. Nailed it. So that makes sense. And I hate this part, too, where... I hate it in the sense of being a human, but I love it in the sense of suspending reality for a TV show that that Andy and April are sharing gum. Gross. I love this too. Also, can we just stop at the nearest place that has free pants? Is this a pants or a shorts kind of party? Great question. But this gum thing makes sense that why he was able to pick up the gum off the Lincoln Memorial. Like that just doesn't matter to him. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Chris says he smuggled in candy to this barbecue, but it's actually raisins. Nature's candy, which is cute, but when you're starving, no. Chris. There's glitter in the clothes now. Sparkle suds. I love this. I know that sounds stupid, but, I love the idea of this. I don't actually love this literally, like if this were to happen to me, or I don't know if I would purchase sparkle suds, but I like the idea of it. Dress loud. I love that. It's just so funny. And then glitter in the glitter in the butter, disco dairy, spread the party. I just love all of these. I wonder if Aisha, who wrote this, came up with both of those, or if she also, or if like the whole crew came up with it. I don't know, but I just love them. They're so good. I'm actually going to highlight that because I want to put that as like, I want to get back to doing favorite lines, and I feel like we haven't done that in a minute, and that's one of my favorite lines. Okay, so I'm going to highlight it. Well, if I can get my Google Doc to work. All right. Shrimp Claw is happening at this Hey Adams party. April's stealing plates. She almost has a full set. Ugh, gosh, they're just the perfect team, aren't they? Or the worst team, however you might look at it. These two gals here next work for the Pentagon and for Eric Cantor, who was a congressman that represented Virginia's 7th district. So just in case you didn't know who Eric Cantor was. Kate is played by Jessica Hansen. She's been in Veep. We just mentioned Veep. Tar, which was a Oscar-nominated movie, which you guys should definitely watch. A lot of shorts, which is great. She played this kind of elite political lady really well. She also does a lot of voiceover, which is really wonderful. She has her whole little website set up and demo and everything, and I'm really proud of her for that. Her headshot looked so different, I will say, on IMDb, because, I mean, it's great. Please don't get me wrong. It's a great headshot. I'm just saying, like, from how she must have changed her hair and everything from, you know, oh God, what was this? A long time ago, 2012 to 2024. 12 years ago? Wow. Nuts. Anyway, she has blonde hair now. So, Jessica Hansen, I hope to hear from you soon. We'll talk about that later. Lacey is played by Lauren White, who has been in House of Cards, Better Living Through Chemistry, which is a movie with Sam Rockwell, which we love Sam Rockwell. And she's also a producer and a writer on a lot of shorts, which is really great. And just in general, if you're I'm catching myself a little bit because when you say producer and writer on shorts, it's like makes it seem like they're pigeonholed into just shorts. They're just a producer and writer. Point blank, period. Anyway. As the kids say, period. Okay. Lacey responds saying her grandma's in the city council. It gives her a reason to leave the house. Oh, that's so rude and condescending in retrospect, but she totally didn't mean it that way. She just like wants to relate to her kind of, but it's awful because this is Leslie's passion and something that's not just to leave the house. This is like what she lives for. Like, that's tough. That would be really tough to hear that. Like, I don't know. I guess that would be the equivalent of like, you know, what actors deal with and singers and musicians and other artists live with all of the time of like, oh my God, my grandson was in, you know, the Thanksgiving play. Oh, he's 3 years old. That's so fun. Yeah. To like someone who's been trying to do this forever. Oh my God. No, that's so cute and wonderful, but also get out of here. I hate that. It's just minimizing. It's just so reductive and it sucks. Because local government is important. And I know that, you know, the way they wrote it was so good. The way she acted it was so good because she's not trying to say it doesn't mean anything because it does mean things. But the comparison of that's my grandma does that. Tough stuff. All right. Then we get another Pawnee mishap, and I think that this is when people were saying that's so random. And when I say Pawnee mishap, I mean not Pawnee, Indiana, because this girl says that Pawnee, Missouri, I think she says. Yeah, Pawnee, Missouri. And she's like, that's so random. I've been there. It's almost like, oh God, here we go. It just the hole keeps getting deeper here. And I was just making a note that I think that's so random was such a catchphrase. I used to say that all the time. I graduated in 2014, and I would definitely remember saying this in high school. So that was definitely during the time when I was saying that's so random, which is very interesting. Just all of our pop culture phrases are so wild. I wonder if we'll look back and be like, remember when we were saying period and fleek and she ate that? Yeah. But I also Leslie just goes there. Yeah, Pawnee, Missouri is a total crap hole. Oh gosh. Can't blame Leslie though. Can't blame her after all of that being said to her. There is a Pawnee, Missouri, by the way, in case anyone is familiar. And all of those other like states, they are real cities and states. Like Pawnee is real. So Pawnee, Missouri is real. And Pawnee, Indiana is real too, I believe. But anyway, actually, I don't want to say I believe, and it's not. You know what I'm saying? Pawnee, Indiana is a fictional city. So, but there is... But yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, Pawnee, Indiana is not real. I'm so sorry. Pawnee, Indiana is the fictional, but there are cities called Pawnee, especially in Missouri. Pawnee, Missouri is real. Okay. What they based it after was like Muncie, kind of, though. Muncie, Indiana is real. All right, and that is Jerry's favorite place. All right, so Leslie says she gets mistaken for Beverly D'Angelo by a Japanese tourist. And for those of you who don't know her by name, she was the woman who played, she was the actress in National Lampoon. She's married to Chevy Chase in the movies, so she's the mom. And that is who she was mistaken for, which is hilarious. And she says it in this kind of like news reporter voice. I was mistaken for Beverly D'Angelo by a Japanese tourist. And so... pretty great accomplishments on both of our ends, because she's comparing her and Ben's day, and then she gives she breaks the camera and gives a kind of awful look like, I hate this is annoying. Side note, I think this is the first time we're seeing her see the hard side of city council. Like, this is one of many moments when she is going to have to fight against, being jaded and discouragement and all that kind of stuff. She's starting at the bottom of the red tape here, and she's going to run into so many more things like this. And it is really heartbreaking, because she was so excited to come to DC, to see Ben, to accomplish the river cleanup thing, to work really hard on this presentation and have it be accepted, and all of that is just going downhill. And so it sucks. But this is the part of the job that no one really talks about / people forget about, when you're thinking about bills being passed and those kind of river cleanup projects, things like that. Like, this is the part that sucks. So, I mean, she's always had this on a smaller level with the Parks and Rec department. And by smaller, it doesn't, negate the fact that it was really, really hard to get through that red tape in the Parks department. But especially here, oh my gosh, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. And we'll see her get there even more. We'll see her fighting a lot more. So at this point, in the barbecue moment back at the Parks / Indiana, point in the story, I can see why Ron would be getting mad, because it's been building up to this moment. At first, it's like, okay, Ron, you need to do your job. But now it's kind of like, okay, so many people are complaining and talking all at once. Jerry's being a child, complaining about not being able to go to the bathroom. And I'm just like, Jerry, then fine, go in the bushes, go in the trees. I don't care. Why are you complaining about this to me? Like, stop it. Or take yourself to the bathroom. Like, what are you doing? I don't care. But again, it's what a child would do, and I feel like that's kind of what we're getting at, is like just the annoyance of, I'm just trying to cook in peace, and that's all Ron wants, because he's not really thinking about the employees at the employee appreciation. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Nick Offerman really did do that drive off with the grill behind his car. I could totally see him doing that, but that was confirmed. I see why he was angry, like I talked about, but it's just so funny because I can't imagine. I don't think they did many takes, but because it was so hot out there. But I cannot imagine being there on that day, seeing Nick Offerman in that vehicle, running away, speeding off over all those bumps and dirt with the grill lit. Like, that would be, I don't know what, I mean, it would not be easy to have a stunned look on your face as an extra. But I would also be like fangirling hardcore. My eyes would be like what they are doing right now. Okay. Moving on. Oh, I was going to say, I think it's interesting that Ron doesn't have a truck. I feel like he should have a truck, right? Like, he should have a truck. Like an old truck. Like, he'd either be a Ford or a Chevy dude, right? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I mean, it does make it funnier that it's not tied to a car, but I was just curious about that. Parks and Rec writers, hello, help me. Back at the Hey Adams, Leslie has this lovely observation that they're all tall. Why are they all so tall? The women that Ben is hanging out with. Ben wants her to meet people, and they are all real senators. This is a lovely, lovely thing that Parks is getting to do here in this season. It starts when they bring on real political heroes, and like I talked about at the beginning of the episode, they're bringing on real political heroes and women that Leslie respects and admires, and also kind of gives the public, people who watch TV, gives them a little bit of an insight into the actual real life senators. And the first one is Barbara Boxer. Second one's Olympia Snowe. For those of you who need to be reminded, though, Barbara Boxer represented California from 93 to 2017, which is in the middle of her term when she shot this. So, she had also apparently she had made a couple of TV appearances, including Gilmore Girls. So I'll have to go back and watch out for her because that would be fun. Olympia Snowe was a rep from Maine from 95 to 2013. She's being known for able to make close calls and ending filibusters. And according to the Parks and Recollection podcast, Olympia Snowe, I love this line actually, said that she just went from, because they were asking her they were asking the senators, how do we go from, how was it to act? Like, how was it being an actor on set, like compared to what you do as a political, career? And she said, we just went from one theater to the other, performing for politics versus performing for TV. And I just actually really like that line. I think it's really illustrative of how we should be looking at politics sometimes, where it is kind of a stage. You know what I mean? It is something that you have to put on a show for, especially if you're trying to convince people to do the right thing. And how can we persuade them, and how can we say the right thing and make sure that we are seen in the public eye as someone that's responsible and trusting and worthy kind of thing. But also the bad side of it too, which is also the bad side of theater and acting too, where there's like lots of drama and lots of corruption and lots of like, did they say that about me, or what do they think about me? That kind of thing. So I think that's really fascinating to draw that parallel. I also think it's great that they're across the aisle. Leslie is not just respecting Democrats. So I think that's interesting and great for Leslie. I love Leslie's rant here too. Oh gosh, this is so awful because I know that if she had had a better day, she would have acted completely differently, but she just kind of makes a fool of herself, accidentally embarrasses herself in front of these wonderful senators. And I just love her little rant too, because at this point she's talked to Hot Rebecca. We haven't really established Hot Rebecca yet, but that's the amalgam that Leslie creates for all of these like political goddesses. And so I think at this point it's kind of like where Ron has revved up to driving off, Leslie has revved up to really going crazy, not crazy, just like going off the deep end with what she is saying about Pawnee. She says Pawnee's overrun with raccoons and obese toddlers. It's actually not great. Like, Pawnee sucks. I hate this. Which, again, on a smaller scale is kind of what we get when she gets her Woman Award with Heidi Klum, if you remember, in London, which is kind of full circle because we talked about London earlier today with the mall, the National Mall. I also love Adam Scott's performance here after... After Leslie's rant, Adam Scott's like, "Excuse me, senators." I just love that performance and the read of that. So now they run to the coat room, and it's sad because Ben really thought that this was the most amazing thing ever. He was being a great boyfriend, all the things. Those two ladies were numbers 7 and 26 on Leslie's list of amazing women. And he was, but Leslie is just so upset right now. And she's still holding off on telling him the truth about her meeting and why she's upset, which makes sense. I mean, it's embarrassing. We talked about this before. It's embarrassing. She just doesn't want to get into it. And I just, someone comes up saying they need a quote for the profile. So from context clues, I'm guessing they're doing a profile on the campaign that Ben is running. And Leslie's like, "Just go." I also love this line too. "But if you don't get out of here soon, I'm going to punch you in the face." And I mean, I could see, honestly, I could see if Ben got like frustrated with her or mad at her because he has no idea why she's acting this way. And he just like gave her the best gift that he thought possible by introducing her to these people. So like I could see why Ben would be like frustrated, but he doesn't really. He's just, I mean, you can kind of see in his face, but he's just, I think he's more confused and like, okay, well, I got to go do this and I'll just listen to her for this point in time. So that's kind of, I guess that's good on Ben's part. But anyway, sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you just say, okay, just get out of here right now. And then we'll talk about it later. And sometimes you have to stay and fight. So, but this was not one of those times. So moving on though, someone, comes up and it's the first appearance of John McCain. I love this so much. He has no idea who it is. And he's like trying to be nice and saying like, well, I hope that everything works out for you. Are you okay? I'm just trying to get my code here. I just love, she says, nosy people have no respect for personal privacy. It seemed like such an SNL moment. Oh my God. She really pulled that out. Anyway, before that, I was going to talk about the actress who plays the gal working with Ben / that comes up and says that she needs a quote. Her name is Jenny Ann Hochberg, and she has been in Law & Order, Blue Bloods, Power. Also, if you're listening, Jenny, your headshots were wonderful. I think they look really great, professional, colorful. They look like you. It's great. I will always notice that, just FYI. Okay. So we've got through John McCain. Oh, yeah, and speaking of SNL, apparently I didn't even realize this. I need to look it up, but apparently he was on SNL with Amy back in her SNL days, so that's kind of hilarious. So back at the barbecue not at the barbecue. The barbecue's over now, but they're back at the parks department, and Anne puts sparkles in all the moisturizers and lotions, so Tom has sparkles all over his face, which, to be honest, I kind of thought that he would be excited about, but at the same time, he says that they're really expensive, so to mess them up, I guess I could see that. But I love this. Not only the name, I already told you I liked all the names, but also the way Rashida says it. I'm calling it Sparkle Skin by Annie. Twinkle, twinkle, big star. I love that so much. Great writing, and also great writing thinking that Tom is going to continue to get mad, but he really just loves the idea and wants to talk about it later. Well, he wants to talk about it after he gets mad, like about it already being ruined. But again, Donna figures it out and knows that they're not dating, so she lets it go. She lets the bet go and just drops it. And we've already talked about this before, and I'm going to try not to harp on it too much, but I just don't understand why this Tom and Ann thing is still going on. So I don't think this is the end yet, because we haven't gotten to the amenities thing, which is very annoying. Because I'm just like, Anne, you're better than this. It seems so off character to care this much about saving face. I wouldn't think that Anne would care this much about, like, saying, okay, I just want to show everyone up. It just doesn't seem like her. I could understand, though, wanting that, like, briefly. But then after dealing with Tom for so much, I just don't see why she wasn't just like, okay, you know what? I'm better than this. This is stupid. Bye, Tom. And everyone else can just think what the hell they think. It seemed weird. But anyway, now Andy is showing Leslie all the DC pictures where him and April are just making out. That's his whole travel, and that's what he thinks travel is, because he's like, traveling. This is where Hot Rebecca comes up, which is the jealousy amalgam. And Andy is really wonderful here and really helps Leslie through her depressed moment of not being able to meet with a bureaucrat. And Andy doesn't even know what a bureaucrat is. And I love this line. She's better than Hot Rebecca. She's kick-ass Leslie. So good. Now Chris is meeting with Ron about how bad the barbecue was, and Jerry accidentally forwarded his bank statement to everyone, which was like one of the Parks Follies situations, which is so sad. Oh God, that's rough. And when you really sit down and think about that, or take a second to think, like, everyone saw my bank statement, that's so embarrassing. And probably sad because they know they underpay him too, but they don't care about that. But anyway, I actually think this is an important moment for Chris, because this is a nice palate cleanser. Because in my opinion, I could see how you would hate it too at the same time. But in my opinion, this is really good for Chris to be fair, accurate, and again, with thinking that he's the dearest friend of everyone in the Parks Department when he's not actually the dearest friend. But he says that later. He really says that, like, as an afterthought almost. He more is like, as your boss, if you're going to lead the department, you occasionally have to lead the department. And I love that line, number one, but I also love that sentiment behind it. And also Rob Lowe's performance is great, but the sentiment behind it of like, occasionally, you know, every now and again, you're going to have to do your job that you said that you were going to have to do your job for. So for me, it was a very nice moment for Chris to just not be weird, sleazy, inappropriate, like that kind of stuff that we kind of saw from him, or like overbearing that we saw from him from the trial of Leslie Knope and stuff, where he's fair, he is just being a boss right now, and he's being so professional about it. And I thought it was a really nice illustration and really nice palette cleanser for me to get back on Chris's side. So we'll see how long that lasts. Okay. Let's see. Leslie is doing the river cleanup herself. Here we are. These are her office hours. She's going to be here from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Saturday. And I love that she said office hours, because that was one of the things that she was mad about, that the bureaucrat guy didn't have office hours, or like she wasn't able to meet with him. So she is going to have office hours, and they're here serving the community. I think that is really smart and beautiful. I also love her red rain boots. Oh my God, those rain boots were like so famous in college. I don't remember even what they're called, but they have the little like white mark with the brand name. I don't even know. But I also love that Leslie's trying to give Andy a compliment. Like, someone reminded me that I'm not one to shy away from hard work. And he's like, do you need something from me right now? He doesn't realize it's him. Very cute. All right. So, oh yeah, and let's not even talk about all the stuff that they find in there and how it smells really bad. Oh God. Ron calls everyone in to the Parks Department. He is yelling meanly, by the way, but he presents them with their thankful barbecue appreciation moment. He brings in corn on the cob, which he said he wasn't going to do, but he did, because he's appreciating the employees, so that's a step. He also brings in the barbecue, and he cooked pig tom, and it's very sad. There are also random maintenance workers in there. So I thought that was interesting to see. If you look in the background, even not in the background, like, you know, if you just really pay attention to the people in that scene, there are a couple maintenance workers in there that are also part of the appreciation day. So that's kind of a nice little detail. And, you know, interesting to see that they're part of the Parks Department. So that's that. All right. So now we are at the Leslie video calling. Oh, and before I actually get there, I do want to say that I think it's a really great thing that they are showing Leslie not being in the Parks Department. I think that because Leslie's technically back, right? Like, she's not in DC anymore, but she's not at that employee appreciation meat barbecue moment, because corn on the cob moment, because she needs to. I love that we need to see that Ron has to do this. Ron has to be the one to be the leader without Leslie there, and without someone pushing him, and with Chris being the one to be the boss here. So I think that was really interesting that she wasn't there. And I mean, I think it's a small, subtle moment. You don't really think about it unless you're me and you're a Parks and Rec nerd who is just noticing that she's not there. But I think it's so important. And I think it was a really well done scene here for them to all be appreciated by Ron in his own little way. But he wouldn't have done that had it not been for Chris pushing him too. So, and just kind of being a leader here as well. That's the other part about Chris in this moment, is like, he is being the boss, being a good boss, being a leader, being a motivator. So I love that. Okay. Now we are here. Oh my gosh, these headphones are going crazy. Okay, so now we're here. Leslie is video calling with Ben. They have a cute moment in their relationship where she tells him why she freaked out. She finally spills the beans and says why she freaked out. But we don't see that. The audience didn't see that. But she explains, and she says what happened. And he's like, yeah, long distance is hard. And so they are going to get through it. They're just going to do their best, and they're doing it now. They're both there late. I don't know why Leslie couldn't have just gone home to video him, but I'm sure she was staying late working and just wanted to go ahead and do it there. I love this, though, the writing. There's only one site I want to see right now. I meant the Lincoln Memorial, you perv. And then he learns that it was not the Lincoln Memorial. Spinning around, backing on up. It's his butt. Okay, so Ben's butt. Andy is now pretending to know things about the White House and in this tag. And he's standing outside of the White House and then April kind of gloms onto this and says that he's the best tour guide. $200 cash up front for the most amazing tour guide. $200 cash? Maybe tourists would do that, but even if I was a tourist, $200? No, that's stupid. I'm not doing that. Oval Redenbacher, though, and that's why it was called the Oval Office. I actually think that's really funny. And then we talk about the movie First Kid, which Sinbad was in, and that's how Andy knows what house it is, because that movie was, I actually haven't seen that movie and didn't watch it as a kid from what I remember, but it was about the president's kids, and Sinbad is in the Secret Service watching the president's kid. So I'll have to add that to the list of cinema to see. And apparently there was a really long deleted scene here with more information than Andy did, like more of the Oval Redenbacher type of things that Andy was talking about, and it was a long one. It was uploaded to the NBC website as well from my research, and pretty hilarious. I love that for them. And I love that Andy gets to just pretend that he knows everything, and just April is supporting this as long as there's money involved. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, well, that was the season 5 premiere, you guys, and thank you so much for joining me. If you watched live at all, thank you so much. Shouts to Chris Carr, who has been a co-host of the show before and will hopefully be on for this season. I know you were sick, so I hope that you feel better. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions or concerns about this season. I'd love to hear any sort of information / questions that I can research. Hopefully there will be a lot more voice memos from the people that were in this episode, because I did touch base with quite a few of them. So hopefully we'll get to play those next week. But thank you so much. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. Go to our Instagram, Park Pals Podcast. I'll be doing bonus pods soon here. Just getting back into the swing of things with starting my new job and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But otherwise, happy season 5, you guys. And we'll see you next time. Okay, bye, everybody.
There's a park and some pals, and there's also therapy too.